Michael here, Mountain Strong. Let me tell you what I want. Let me tell you what I want for me and what I want for you. I want all of us to be able to have lives where we are excited to show up, lives where we engage actively, where we're present more often than not, where we want to do the things that are on our agenda each day. That the life we live is a life that we have chosen to live. It reminds me of the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, where the author, forgot the name, I'm sorry, he outlines this beautiful thesis that the goal of life is to get to select your problems. If you drive a 30-year-old, if you drive a 30-year-old car with rust and, and it needs, you have to refill the radiator with water and antifreeze every week because it's leaking, well, you have a problem, right? Like you have a car and that car represents certain kinds of problems. And one of the options would certainly be to replace that car with a brand new car with a warranty from the dealership. And now you have a new car that was worth $30,000 when you rolled it off the lot. Now, if you were to try to sell it, it's only worth $20,000 and it's going to continue to depreciate. And maybe you're making car payments, or if not, there's at least a $30,000 hit on your, in your bank account. You haven't solved all the problems. You've just changed problems. You've changed one problem for another problem. And I think this is an important idea, right? That we should choose the problems that we're going to solve in life. And when we think about being strong and when we think about having a life that we can maximize for our performance and our durability and our longevity, this is what this comes down to. What this comes down to is, do you get to do the things that you want to do? Do you feel physically and emotionally and mentally free to create the life that you want? I ran a whole bunch of half marathons 2 decades ago, a decade and a half ago. And I was never especially fast. My pride was usually that I could run it with very little training and that I could run it with very little soreness or stiffness the next day. Of a half dozen half marathons or so, I think, I remember one of them I had a little bit of a knee tweak afterwards. That was it. It was my IT band was tight because my butt was weak. So this idea of being able to do the things that you want to do and having the freedom and the confidence in your body. I no longer run. I don't run half marathons. I don't do a lot of running. I do some rucking. I do a bunch of lifting. I do some cycling. This is what my life looks like right now. And part of that is that I have a 4.5-year-old son who, I take with me when I can, but he's not doing epic mountain bike days with me. And so I get in movement where I can, and that's built around the other things that matter in my life, my other priorities, my son, my wife, my business, and really training in ways that might be less fun, but are going to have huge payoff for me in the long run. I work on building the strength in my back, my hips, my hamstrings, my quads, my chest, my shoulders, because I want the autonomy to do shit for decades to come. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have the autonomy to make your decisions. I want you to have the autonomy to choose what you do with your life, what you do with your body. And that's it. Anyone who has a system that says your goals need to align with our system, if they do, that's cool. I spent time in a CrossFit gym and I truly love CrossFit. A hard high intensity CrossFit workout is a really good thing. For me, my current cadence in life, I can handle that once every week or so. More than that, I just get burnt out and I'm unhappy and I'm grumpy and I don't sleep well and everything goes kind of to shit. Once a week, once every other week, cool, great, right? And it doesn't matter if it's a 3-minute thing or a 5-minute thing or a 15 or a 30-minute thing. once a week or so, once every 2 weeks works. But what CrossFit did for me was it got me moving in new and novel ways. But once I built this foundation of confidence in moving in new and novel ways, the next step was do something else, right? I got into CrossFit. I started coaching in a CrossFit gym. I got some of the other certs within the CrossFit world. This has changed a little bit, but I learned what I could learn from that community. And then I left the CrossFit gym and I became a personal trainer. And I took what I had learned from CrossFit to personal training, to working one-on-one with clients. And it didn't mean we were doing CrossFit workouts, but it was the principles that mattered. And then I opened up my own, I ran a strength and conditioning program at a local climbing gym here in Salt Lake City for a while, for 6 months. And I continued to apply what I had learned through all of these experiences. And then finally I opened my own gym, and that's now 8 years ago. And that whole time, the whole mission has been learn more so I can apply more, learn more so I can get better at helping people. And what I have done, my thought process, I'm reflecting on this in the moment in a way that I haven't before. What I have come to realize is that I started in a group training program, right? I started teaching yoga, right? In a yoga class. Good yoga teachers pay attention to what everyone is up to, how people are doing, and might make some modification. I think really great yoga teachers actually, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I started in group settings, right? Yoga and CrossFit. That was nice because then I could coach 10 or 20 people at a time. I could see 10 or 20 people doing stuff at the same time. I could get really fast. I had fast repetition of seeing movement and of coaching movement and of learning how to coach movement. And there's movements in the CrossFit library that I was never very good at. I still had to coach them. And I learned, how do I coach a thing when I don't have the capacity to do that thing terribly well? And the way that you do that is you break it down into the principles and then you build up from those principles and you connect it to other things that you know. I'm really, really good. I'm pretty good. I'm good at swinging kettlebells. I'm good at kettlebell snatches. And so when it came to teaching people a barbell snatch, what I realized was most of this is the same, right? There's some subtle differences, but there are more similarities than differences. And if I can teach someone to generate the power, I can teach someone to snatch faster and better. So I went from group, and over time, I started working with smaller and smaller groups. I'd coach 20 people at the CrossFit gym. I'd coach 8 people at the climbing gym. I'd coach 2 people in a private coaching session or 1 person. And what I've figured out is that there's a shift that happens when we start moving from group to one-on-one. And that is both as a coach and as well as a client. I would never at this point in my life make a group setting my primary activity. It's fun. It can be motivating. It can be motivating to get to the gym because there's the people that you're going to see and because you've made a commitment. And in terms of price point, man, it's hard to beat. It's kind of hard to beat a $200 unlimited membership at a CrossFit gym, or at an Orange Theory or wherever, right? It's kind of hard to beat that because you can put in as much training as you want for a fixed cost. And that cost is pretty reasonable if you do it as a your time against cost. But if you're doing 12 hours of CrossFit in a month, 3 sessions a week, reasonable, right? Or you're doing 12 sessions of one-on-one coaching with a professional coach in a month, the cost, 2 different price points, right? To be clear, 2 different price points, no matter who you're working with for your private coach. But the results aren't the same. The results are not the same. Blend from Idle Hands, working on it today. When you go to a coach, when you get one-on-one coaching, please I want you to make sure that a few things are true. One, make sure that that coach is someone who you enjoy spending time with. Make sure that that coach is someone that you have a feeling of some trust with. If you are working with a coach that you don't trust, a coach that you're like, you feel a little bit off in the relationship, it is always going to be suboptimal, because you need to trust your coach, because your coach's job is to push and to nag and to encourage. And if that stuff exists within a trust relationship, then that's much more effective than if it doesn't. Your coach should also be assessing you. They should be watching you move and making adjustments based on that. They might do a formal assessment up front. They might actually get you started and then do an informal assessment through the first few training sessions. I think if you're coming in with pain, there should be an initial upfront assessment, definitely. If you're coming in without pain, whether they do an initial assessment and then get you started, or they get you started and then assess as they go, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, it's up to individual preference. Either one of those is fine. But the coach is like, hey, I have a program and I'm going to run you through this program. And like, your job is just to simply follow the program. If that's the experience that you want and that's the price point that works for you, it is absolutely the right thing to do, and it can work. But I think we should remember that is always going to be substandard or lower effectiveness than an individualized program. That's it. And so I want you to be able to maximize your life. I want you to be able to maximize your options. I want you to maximize your movement autonomy, actively your ability to decide how and when to do things. I think that's a really big deal. I want you to be able to maximize those pieces in your life. And I think that if you are working with a coach, having a coach who also wants those things for you is a big deal. This got a little bit ranty this morning. Sorry. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time.